Hello, and welcome to Event Planning Part 2. This is going to be a series of classes where we are going to cover all of the Crat positions that are involved with creating events. If you were watching last week, we covered Autocrat. We covered Autocrat for 4 hours. So that video is available. It's also been broken up into smaller videos. So if there's only like a section you would like to watch, that has been separated, and you can watch that as your leisure. So today we have the same amazing guests as last time, and when we do this again in the future. So we have Dark Lord Darian, we have Countess Feywellen, and I am Admiral Ann Cash. Most people just call me Admiral. If you're here, please let us know by saying hello either in the Twitch chat here or on our Discord. This is with the Principality of the Nine Blades, so that is the Discord that we're on. If you are from the Nine Blades, please remember to sign in on our Discord. And if you are not from the Nine Blades, if you could just put your kingdom, your park, and your orc name, and the credit you would like to take in the Twitch chat, we'd super appreciate that, and we'll be sure to get that to you. If you have any questions for us, please tag me in the Twitch chat so that I can see, just to cover any sort of... it is easier for us to be able to find your questions a lot easier, just because there's a lot of chat in chat. So we just want to make sure that we're able to get your questions. And remember, again, as usual, there is a 30-second delay with the Twitch chat. So at any time, please ask any questions as we go. You can also put any questions that you have on our Discord chat as well. So feel free to use either method. We'll be watching both of them as we go. Yes. Krell, you rock, and heart, just in case you were not able to see that. Good stuff. All right. And also I see Rajavia's here. Customary jazz hands for you. Fantastic. Okay, so today the Crat positions that we're going to be covering, time allowed, of course, is going to be ANS Crat / Color Crat, Feast Crat, and Security Crat. If we have time, we'll also cover Quest Crat, War and Reva Crat. Oh, excuse me. War and Reva Crat and Metacrat, if time allows. Again, the secondary ones will most likely be moved to our next meeting. Watch the event pages. We'll be keeping up to date there. So, without further ado, I think we should start. Okay, so the first one we're going to go over is ANS Crat / Color Crat. So, if you are the ANS Crat or Color Crat, the first step is the bid. When you are brought onto the bid team, y'all need to set up your bid and present it. The things that you, as that particular Crat, will want to put on the bid is the list of events that you are running. If you're running any tournaments, like if it's mid-range, there is the possibility of you having Dragon Master in there, though that particular thing can be done within 3 weeks prior, but I'll go into that a little later. You'll also want to have the schedule for the list of events that you are doing, and you'll also want to have the budget. If there are any materials or things you want to produce for the events that you're running, you're going to need to budget, and that will need to be reflected on the bid. So, let's say everything goes through, your bid team has won the bid, and now this is day one. Day one of pre-event. when you're dealing with the events that you're running, it's important to know your audience. Know what you need to be running. So keep in mind that ANS and color activities will most likely be crafters, will most likely be non-combatants, individuals that would be playing the color class. Also keep in mind any accessibility needs for those that have disabilities, because a lot of us will participate in these types of activities. You're also not restricted to just crafting. If you're doing more of the color crat sort of thing, remember that you can have just different activities to run that don't necessarily have anything to do with crafting. You can do scavenger hunts. You could do... oh, sorry. My machine just shut off. You could do quests that are non-combative quests. You can do escape rooms. You can do all sorts of things. Again, it's one of those things where you're limited by your imagination, so go for it and have fun. Another thing that you're going to want to...
One of the things I've done...
Oh, go for it, yep.
Oh, sorry.
Please, by all means.
One of the things I've done, historical games. There's actually a lot of interesting games in history. Precursors to chess, checkers. I think it's Ludus Lectruli and Henefatoffel are two really good ones. They have a completely different mindset than some of the games we play today. And it's really interesting watching people try them out for the first time. Nine Men's Morris, it's not about trying to win, it's about trying to make your opponent make a mistake. So instead of trying, it's just the change in thought is really interesting, and some people really enjoy that. And it's something that you don't have to have really good skill with stick fighting, or if you are injured or you're not able to be mobile that day. Keeps you involved, and you can even do it in a role play or tavern environment because everything's period.
That's honestly, thank you so much for bringing that up. We used to do a thing with strategic gaming used to be part of our Crown Quals. So that's definitely something also that you can have at your events, right? You can have games set up. Actually, real quick, Darian, would you like to just quickly make comments about tavern, just like tavern RP options?
Yeah, some people, when you're dealing with quests later in the game or later in the event, or if you're just looking for something to progress your character's story, having a place set aside for you is a great resource. Having tables, having some props, having just a space where people can come together, because not everything in a character's RP or character's story is going to be on the battlefield fighting it out. So you can bring things in, music, period music. If you can find stuff, it doesn't even necessarily have to be period music. Something like, I have a CD, The Ballad of Lancelot. It's Arthurian legend, and it has that feel. It gives an ambience that it keeps people involved and participating even when they're not on the field. And sometimes it encourages people to come in out of the sun and get something to drink. It's creating that space. You can do it. We had spoken in the Autocrat video about getting people to bring in banners, or bringing in banners yourself and decorating a space so it is essentially the Wolven Fang Tavern. It's just creating that space, and having the props really brings it together. The more brought together it is, the more you're going to get people in the space, and in the space means out of the sun. So fewer medical problems in the long run.
Or rain or whatever weather conditions you might have. That's also
it's also good for the adverse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, sometimes the weather is going to get into a real bad situation, and if you don't have a location that is if you're in a situation where your battle games can't actually run because of the weather being a real bad situation, right? figure everyone's gonna all of a sudden move into your area and need something to do, right? So having activities that are in some sort of sheltered area can be a real boon to your event. A little bit on that. Just real quick, Feywellen, is there anything that you'd like to add in before we move on to the next section? Just different things that you've seen that were non-combative or color or crafting activities you've seen in particular.
I mean, so usually at an event I'm not fighting for the most part. So that's like sort of my favorite area is like taverns and such like that. I know on Wednesday, literally my house is now just a tavern. It's the Raven's Rookery, and people come over on Wednesday and they hang out and they do their thing and role play and play music. A really big draw to a tavern or ANS type area is to have bardic stuff there. Have somebody singing, just start a sing-along. Somebody always brings their guitar, and it's always brings people together, and you learn the songs, and it's just, I think it's amazingly fun, and it also gives a place for people who like to craft or sit and knit and need a shaded area. And there's always a couple of people who don't really want to do the battle games. They want the immersive role-playing sort of aspect of it. So yeah.
Right, and also for our color community, that's a class. And folks enjoy playing it, and it's important to have a space that class can be played, because the other combative classes, even the class Reeve, right? They have battle games for that. There's other things they can do. So having a space that's open for everyone, it's important to have everyone represented. So
it's also great when you bring your kids. Just as a side note, we have a lot of amp graders who have small children who actually aren't old enough or allowed to play, so it gives them something to do. Or like Munchkin Guard, right? Where we have the kids' activities where it's age appropriate, and they're not going up against a 200-pound man in giant armor. They have their own thing, or scavenger hunt, or something like that to keep your kids engaged, so then you can enjoy the game as well as your kids.
Also, random fun tip. If you do have like a photo scavenger hunt, that's a real easy way to make sure that there are events photos happening and being posted, and all of a sudden, right, like if one of your things is get an epic shot of of a battle sequence or something, right, or folks are peeing, or feast or something, right, like all of a sudden you now have a bunch of photos that you can use for advertising in the future if given permission, and also for letting folks be able to see what happened at that event. It's a good kind of almost like a time capsule of your event to be able to have that. So that's actually just a fun little thing you can do.
You are going to want to double check before using someone's likeness.
100%.
Always.
Some people actually have legal concerns, and some people it's just a professional concern.
Correct.
But without photos and advertising like that, getting new people in the game gets a lot more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure that the folks in the photo are okay with it, and make sure that the individuals that are taking the photos are also okay with that being public. But if everyone's good, you're good. Excuse me. So next, you're going to want to determine the space that you're going to need for this particular Crat position, right? If you're doing a tournament, right, you're going to want table space for folks to be able to put their entries out. You're going to want to have any sort of setup area for for the judges, if they have usually you'll have like colored markers or pens to denote the different judges, having extra paper available, having extra things for write-ups, any sign-ins. Usually when you're trying to like do your sign-ups for your entries, right? It's good to have sort of a little station, things like that. You're also going to want to consider, again, weather. You cannot do an ANS tournament out in the open if it's super windy, if it's raining or a chance for rain. If this is in winter, you can't do that in the snow. There's lots of things, right? If you are running a tournament, you want to make sure that the work is safe, right? If you do have tables and things like that, you're going to want to make sure that they are dry, that they don't have any rusted nails sticking out or super splintered or something, right, where you want to protect the art. Folks have put in a lot of time and effort, and you want to make sure that you treat it with respect and make sure that everything gets safely back to those who enter. So that's going to be something.
I was going to add an addition to that. Most people
Absolutely.
think, oh my God, rain. Oh my God, snow. Oh my God, all of these things. They don't think about, so with food entries, please do Crat entry. It's very unsafe to keep food in direct hot sunlight, to keep it at a very unsafe temperature. Also, if any of your crafters have used hot glue, or all of these things that melt in direct sunlight. If it's a really hot day, you need to have an air-conditioned space, plus your judges. Do not put your judges in direct sunlight, because usually an ANS competition is not 20 minutes to judge. It's a long time. Also provide them water, please.
That's going to be a common thing across all of these, is the importance of water. So please hydrate.
Yeah.
I know I was at an event in Felfrost, and they did some speed crafting. Someone had done this beautiful plasticine bird, and then they had stored it on the dash of their car.
Yep.
Oh, no.
They were picking plasticine out of their air conditioner for the next like 8 months. I think it's still in there too. It just melted.
Not amp guard related, but I have seen people use hot glue. When I cosplayed and went to Comic-Con, I used hot glue, I know, shame, to put together a gun holster. About 2 hours later, it was just falling apart and I had glue everywhere. So, it does melt.
Yeah, I actually entered a Kingdom Dragon Master once where my entries were in my vehicle, and I had a wax seal on something, and it was like in a book, and it melted and stuck the pages together. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. So yeah, so heat is going to affect things. Also, I guess we'll just go into this a little quickly. If you are doing a Dragon Master tournament, it is, number one, 100% needs to be coordinated with your regent. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, your regent ends up being the ANS Crat, so that makes it really, really convenient. Also, if you are an autocrat and you're trying to build a team and you need an ANS Crat, talk to your regent, because that's usually a good person to do that, especially if your park does decide to run the Dragon Master at the event instead of in the 3 weeks prior. Also, just a random office thing. Be sure that you remember to make sure that the rules for the event for the Dragon Master that you're doing are posted and made public at least 4 weeks prior to the tournament. In the Nine Blades up here, that is actually required by Arcapora to do so. And the regent or the event runner, depending on if it is delegated, is in charge of the rule set. So they either must write it themselves, or they can choose to use someone else's, but they must declare that that is the one being used. And again, that the rules need to be public, and it needs to be accessible. For more tips and tricks about writing and judging and entering Dragon Master, feel free to check out my other video, the Dragon Master Masterclass, that is also on this Twitch channel. Please watch. So I don't want to get too far into it, just for time constraint stuff, and gosh, it's a long video, so lots of information there for you. But yeah, so right, and there's lots of regions that have created rule sets. Right, I've created a rule set for our principality. Right, it's a one sheet thing. Very simple. There's a link to it on our Facebook group. I post it often when tournaments are peeking around the corner. And also just a reminder that in our Kapora, right, it has the list of categories for Dragon Master tournaments. So if you're doing that, please remember that these are actually need to be a part of your rule set, because these are actually required, again, in our Kapora. These are the categories that we go by in the Principality. So, just a random side note. Yeah, okay, so... And again, what we were saying before, with things like having sections that are open for, open RP, taverns, and things like that, you're going to have to figure out where that's going to be, right? You want to make sure that there is space for that. You don't want to show up to an event and then try to decide, hey, where are we going to put this, right? You want to know exactly where everything is. You want to negotiate with your autocrat, just what is available, where things can be. If you're able to, when folks do, especially for bigger events, when they do the site walk, right, as you were mentioning in the other video, go to that site walk, be a part of that process, and be sure to actually see what you're dealing with, right? See the actual space, see how many tables you got, how much room there is, and try to figure out what space is going to be best for the activities that you're running. Some things you're gonna want to do outside, and some things you're gonna want to do inside, and it's good to really be aware of that site. Right? Is there any other thing that you wanted to add with sort of the site setup?
Well, I highly recommend going to see it, because if I said you had a space 8 by 10, a lot of people can't think right off the top of their head, how big is a 8 foot by 10 foot space, and what's the layout, what equipment do I have? Being there on the scene, you can stand in a corner and say, okay, so I need from here to the wall and there to the wall, and the autocrat and the other crats can say, that makes sense, we're okay with that. And you're not dealing with, I don't remember how big was my space, how big's the table. Always easier to see it in person, and being on the site, you can say, oh look, there are tables here. The cafeteria at the school we use for our mid-range in Wolvenfang comes with the cafeteria tables. So we can push those together, we can get big tables, we can get long tables, we can get narrow tables, we can have bench seating. But we know that because we know the site really well. So if you're going somewhere new, make sure you go for that walk. And it's really hard to play the telephone game and explain to somebody after the fact the resources that they have at their disposal.
Yeah.
So.
Paywellen, is there anything that you would like to add? Oh, sorry, go for it. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to backtrack when we were talking about role-playing and having that tavern idea, giving people a place, that space to play. Don't be afraid to get in a character and kick things off. Any good DM will tell you, the players don't come in character. You're the one who has to start it, so don't be afraid to be the pirate bartender or something to get the RP started. Go out on a limb. It's the only way you're going to have fun sometimes. And sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes you might be a little embarrassed, but that goes away after a few minutes.
Yep. Yeah, just a side note on that, right? Just like on Linagon, we actually do tavern nights, and what we often will have is props. So basically having just little scenario situations, right? Little like discussion topics, things like that. We once did a thing where we had a box of scrolls, just rolled up pieces of paper that were just, typed out things, and half of them were curses and half of them were just normal like scrolls. And basically, a guy came in and was just like, I need to find my scrolls in here, and some of them are just traps, and I cannot handle opening any more of these by myself. Can you please just help me? Help me get through these, please. I will pay you in whatever you want. Just please, just help me through this. And it was just, we had a whole night of folks just trying to go through these and just roll the dice of just like, is it? Oh no. And it would be just like, you're affected this way for 30 seconds, right? You think you're a cat for the next 30 seconds, right? And then you just roleplay, whatever it was. But then there was also, right, you had stipulation of, if you were not comfortable doing that particular thing, right, you could it would say, just say that you did not get a cursed roll, right? Like, it would just have that kind of, that thing just set up, because, some people are not going to be comfortable doing, all types of things, and you want to make sure that folks are comfortable, right? Having options, for them to play around with is awesome, but you also want to make sure that it is an option that they want to do. So just, have things that are available for them, and, you just play around with it. I know Tyler once did a thing of, I think it was like a deck of many things, sort of.
That's what I was gonna say.
And
I was waiting for my turn.
Yeah. Actually, do you wanna go over that? Just talk about
I don't
what
even know. I've only heard legends of the deck of many things. In Amtgard, I've been in here 3 years or almost 4 years, and I have still not seen the appearance of the deck of many things. And I'm excited to eventually see or draw a card.
Yes.
So
Wunjo used to have this deck of many things. He was actually going to throw it out, and I actually saved it, so I have it somewhere. I have to pull it out. But yeah, basically it was a deck of cards, essentially, and there were some things that were boons and some things that were curses, and it was just a luck of the draw. And it was your choice whether or not you wanted to participate and wanted to take a gamble and do that, right? Some things it would just be like, you now have pro mag for the rest of Feast, right? Like, it could be just some great, awesome thing, right? Or you have one wish from a genie that will last the rest of, Feast or whatever, right? But other things would just be like, you're poisoned, right? You have X amount of time to get healed or you're dead, right? Like, it could be anything. It would be anything, right? You're now affected by confusion. Everyone that you think, that was once a friend, you think is plotting against you, right? All of a sudden you just gotta, you roll with it. But yeah, it's lots of fun. Yeah, so just having, again, these are things that are just prompts, things for people to play with. So it's good just to have options. Just have options. Yeah, so next section. 90% of the time you're not. Whoop, sorry.
I was gonna say, if you would ask me, but then I didn't get to answer. Something
sorry.
that you need to, something that you need to make sure pre-bid when you do your walk, etc., is accessibility. Because if you have a schedule and you have your ANS tent at the top of a hill for whatever reason, you need to make time for people to move spaces in your schedule and be able to get, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm on Ryan's phone and his alarms go off. But yeah, accessibility to be able to switch, because schedules, they never, in my experience, they never Amtgard standard time. It never works. So, but yeah.
Pro tip.
Accessibility.
you can have a double schedule thing, where you have the public schedule and then you have the actual schedule. So, the actual schedule is the times that you actually want things to run and how much time you're actually having on there. And that is you're figuring folks are not going to follow what is posted and that it's going to have the AmpGuard standard time. So you post to them, like, if you want something to actually start at 2, right, you say, we're gathering to get this situated at, like, 1, right? So by the time everyone actually gets there and actually gets set up and has whatever, right, you'll start at 2, as you're actually planned on starting. So you can actually very, very strategically plan for AmpGuard standard time without folks realizing that you have done so. It's very sneaky.
Don't tell them about the secret schedules.
I mean,
If you tell them about the
everything's
secret
exactly
schedules,
what it
make a
says.
secret schedule.
No, you just told them about the secret
Everybody
schedule of the secret schedule. Dang it! That was my secret! There's secretly 5 schedules! No. Now I'm gonna have to do that on, on principle now. 5 schedules later.
People use that kind of thinking in my real life. If they want to hang out with me at 2 o'clock, they book for 3, or they book for 1, because I'm never on time.
Making notes.
Yeah. So you know.
But yeah, again, right.
AmpGuard standard time.
Figure that you really don't want to have a schedule that's set to have just exact things, and without having anything accounted for flexibility, right? For the amount of time it takes for folks to just so much as walk from one section to another, right? Gathering their gear, their materials. If they're doing something like, like a battle game or something, and then want to then do like a tavern quest or something like that. If it's not class, right? If it's not a battle thing, right? They're gonna need time to get all their armor off, right? Maybe even just make a quick switch of garb, right? If they're just like gross and sweaty and whatnot. Figure, right?
I've yet to meet the person wearing heavy armor that comes out of it not gross and sweaty. And
yeah.
Drinking a bottle of water.
Yep, that. Right, and also, right, giving them time to breathe and drink and, right, take that beat that they need, right? Instead of just like, oh gosh, no, I gotta get ready for the next thing, right? You're throwing everything off, you're trying to drink as you're running, and it's not really realistic, right? You have to be realistic with what folks are going to physically be able to do. And especially if you have folks that have accessibility needs, right? You have to account for that. You need to also make sure that the space that you're doing these things in are things that, folks can get into, right? If you have something that is up 3 flights of stairs, right, and you have a couple of people in wheelchairs, understand that they're now not going to be able to do that activity. So it's really, really, really important to know the needs of the individuals that you are serving. It's extraordinarily important. This game is for everyone.
An amazing example of really good scheduling is Adventure Academy. I find that they tend to schedule in the same block. They'll schedule an A&S class and a fighting class, and like they spread it out so it's not like all the A&S classes are at 10 o'clock and you have to choose one. So you can go throughout your day and be like, okay, I'm too tired of, after like ditching Riley for an hour and a half. I'm gonna go sit down and draw because I'm tired now. So like I find they're a great example of great scheduling and thinking ahead for their players and needs and stuff like that.
Yep.
So
actually, side note, that event also actually has in the schedule transition time, giving you enough time to get from one class to another. And the classes are actually very close to each other, space-wise. So it gives you the amount of time to switch up things if you, if all of a sudden you are doing like a crafting thing where you need to gather materials that, that you're preset or something like that, right? If you're teaching a class, if you were just attending a class and then have to go teach a class, right, that gives you time to set up and grab your stuff and prep your space. Yeah, it's really, really well done, and everything's very, very scheduled, and they don't go by amp guard standard time. They're just very like, we're starting with or without you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I will get there. Because like, when you have something that precise in time, and that, when it actually has a scheduled, you have 15 minutes to get from this class to this class, we start at this point. Everyone just moves like they're actually in a school. It's treated very much like a school day. And having that sort of atmosphere where everyone just, gets it into gear and they move, right? I actually really like that. I really like the structure of that. So, those who run said event, very well done. I actually really, really enjoy that. And I really love teaching, so, keep letting me teach, please.
One day I'm gonna actually make it in time to teach. I was scheduled.
It's so good. It's so fun.
1 year, and I didn't make it, and then the next year I couldn't make it again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna teach calligraphy. Darn it, it's gonna happen. Yes. I even have like the graduation certificate made and everything from 2 years ago.
Well, that's fantastic. Now I want to go take that class. Speaking of things, segue. Things that need to be made. When you are the ANS or color Crat for an event, you need to know exactly what needs to be made or purchased. So you want to have a full list. Remember also that I want to say 95% of the time, you're gonna have a team for this, right? You're not gonna be doing this solo. So it's gonna be important that you pick your team and then you communicate with your team for that entire pre-event period, right? You want to set deadlines for anyone that's making things. You want to make sure that they have their travel and sleeping arrangements pre-set out, that you know that they have a way to get there. You don't want to find out 24 hours before the event that they never planned for a ride, and if it's camping, they don't have a tent, and they don't know where they're gonna sleep that night, right? After traveling for 6 hours, right? Like, you need to make sure that, your team is set and prepared and get there, right? So that is actually super important. You also, for deadlines, if anything it needs to be made, it's important to set deadlines of, like, things, the materials need to be acquired by X date, things need to be made by X date, and you want to make sure that, again, sometimes you're going to have folks that are on your team that are going to make things but not be attending the event. You want to make sure that there is a plan set up to get those items to the event. So that also needs to be figured out and coordinated. And communication. For every single one of these Crat positions, communication is going to be super, super critical for everything. Communication. Repeat stuff. Communication. Anything anyone wants to add on that note before I go into a little further into that?
Nope, you echoed my sentiments exactly.
Fantastic. So quickly, fiscal responsibility. When determining the things that you want at the event, see if anyone has the items already. See if anyone is willing to donate things, right? There's lots of crafters with crazy crafting stashes, and half of the stuff is stuff that they will never use and they never intend to, and it's just rotting in a box for 10 years. And they're like, oh yeah, no, you can just have this. Right? You'd be shocked how many folks would just donate fabric and materials. Just, yep, this is somebody gave this to me once and I'm never going to use it. You want this? Cool. Before you go out and buy, you know, $20 a meter fabric, see if somebody has stuff like that. See if folks have banners. See if your park has bunting and flags and banners and things like that, that you can set up the space, right? If you're doing something like a tavern, right? See if folks have props. See if folks have, you know, set dressing kind of things, right? Because most of the time, right, folks are just going to have these items. Folks are just going to have a bunch of stuff that that you can just borrow for the event. So it's things that you definitely don't need to be purchasing. It's very, very important that you do not waste money for these things. So just always ask first. Always ask first. There's going to be times when, yeah, something's going to be super specific. You're going to need to purchase or make something, depending on the theme of the event, depending on, you know, exactly what you're doing. If it's something like super, super specific, sure, that's going to happen at times. But a lot of times there's going to be things that you can just borrow. So,
if I could just jump in there.
Absolutely.
Best time I find to get anything for taverns or props or anything, November 1st. Like, all of the Halloween stuff is on sale. You go in, you buy, and you wind up with bottles, like Witch's Brew bottles. Bottles of just anything. And you can just put them together on a table, take the labels off if you have to. You can get all of the weird colored prop roses, and you just slap them all together, put them in one of those bottles, and now you have set pieces for tables, tablecloths. Okay, they might have spider webs, bats, and things on them, but if you're thinking about cleaning up after a tavern, fold that up, throw it in the garbage because it cost you 50 cents, fast, and you're out of there.
Yep.
So think about some of the seasons and some of the holidays, and then go out the day after that and get pretty much everything you need for under $1.
Yep. Absolutely. I love Halloween, so I go nuts on those.
That's when I decorate my house. Is November 1st. That's when I replace all of my dishes and such from the year before. But it's also, so I have an entire box that I'm still waiting to use. At one point, good find, Loblaws had those little glow stick creatures. Great for Night Quest.
Ooh.
Great for Night Quest. I have scorpions and spiders and all this stuff. So, like, because normally they're like $2-3 a pop, and that's annoying for a Night Quest that most people, they're going to get lost. Whatever, I have a box full, so it's all good. Go find a glowy scorpion, and yes, you get to keep it, because you can replace the glow stick with it.
Yep.
Also, it cost me
dollar store.
a nickel.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Cost me a nickel a piece. I think I spent $2 on, like, insane amounts of little glowy creatures.
Yeah.
Coming soon to a Night Quest near you.
Ooh. Oh, now I want to do Night
cool.
Quest. But yeah,
Right? I love Night Quest.
So good. But yeah, so just that is a fantastic tip, right? Halloween is a fantastic time for that, right? Also, like, a lot of stores will that November 1st thing, everything will be 50 to 75% off or more. And some stores actually start that even like the week of Halloween or even before that, because like they start selling these things in like August, right? So by the time, you know, you're actually in October, no one's actually buying the things that are already off the shelf, and there's already ridiculous sales going on, and you're just like, okay, yeah, this is fine, you know. Like, actually, we used to go to Michael's craft store during Halloween time when they
85%.
Yeah.
85 the day after. And then the next week, if you know and there's an abundance of something, wait a week. And the next week, it'll be 95% off. You're getting stuff for pennies.
Just real quick, seeing some chat and the chat.
thrift stores.
Yeah, thrift stores. Thrift stores
good.
are also very good. Very good for these types of things. Very cheap.
Hey, I got
lots
this shirt
of
at the thrift store.
Hey. I actually got this blanket at a thrift store. Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, it's just, especially also, like, they have some cool things for props, and very, 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 very cheap. So, yeah, if you need something very specific, also, right, again, remember that, and this is something that we were kind of talking before, for the other class, if you want to, have a thing, if you want to buy it yourself and have it, like, when the event is over, you can buy a cool thing for an event and then keep it, so long as you're not using, like, if you're using your own money, like, yeah, go nuts. If you've got it and you want to do it, yeah, buy a bunch of treasure chests and fill them with tons of crazy stuff, right? If it's your money, you want to do that, go for it, right? Because that if you're the one that buys it, that goes home with you at the end of the day, right? So things don't always have to come from the treasury, right? If you have the finances to do it and you're willing to do it, cool. Because honestly, some parks cannot afford such things, and it's one of those unfortunate situations. So again, right? These are options. There are options.
That actually makes me think of something else.
Yeah.
Go find. Every park has that one person that has done 100 quests. They've run hundreds of them. Go ask them for something. They probably have just chests of this stuff sitting in their basement. I've got like a whole, I want to say 3 or 4 just Tupperware bins in my basement of quest supplies. Okay, most of it's Halloweeny and has like gravestones and whatnot in it, but
same.
You never know. I have a storm machine. It literally has strobing lights and all the sounds, and
Ooh,
you never know when that's going to come in handy. I only used it once.
Every Halloween,
loan it out.
So tempted to get those fog machines every time. Haven't done it yet. Just every year I say I'm gonna get it this year, just for a cool
November
quest
1st.
moment.
November 1st, I got 2 and the fluid for $60, and I use them every year. They're remote control.
Yeah, masks.
I have so many of those giant spiders that like in Walmart they were like $20, and then I went back and I was like, meh, I kind of missed November 1st, so I went like November 15th, and originally $20 cost me 50 cents, and they're huge, and I have like 5 of them, so
yeah,
for no reason.
And yeah, Gumjaw just mentioned masks, like the simple half masks.
Oh yes, so good.
It's just a real easy thing for NPCs, without having to have like a full garb, change up
Side
thing,
note,
right?
Makes an amazing ANS activity. Is to bring a bunch of blank masks and have you make a mask for your character, whatever you want to portray at that event that day, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
Really cool.
That one doesn't even have to be near Halloween. You can do it if you have you can do a masquerade ball style mask, and everyone needs one for their garb, their outfit. You might even have an event that is masquerade ball style.
Oh yeah.
So
we've seen those, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you can do for color crats and ANS crats, you can have masquerade balls, right? You could have you could have a tournament where there's a tournament for mask making for the masquerade ball, right? To where if not everyone shows up with a mask, you have a bunch of blanks and a bunch of things, and it's like, right, you have 2 hours to make a mask, and at the end, right, we're gonna judge everyone's masks, right? You can do that, right? You can have a masquerade costume competition, right? I've seen those before.
Ryan taught ballroom dancing at our masquerade ball.
Yep. Which is another non-combative activity. Like, There's so many things you can do. Just also,
Unless
right?
you're dancing with me, then it's pretty combative. I cannot be led. Just saying. I fight it the whole time. Yeah.
Majestic. So good. But yeah, also, like, if you're ever curious about options and things, talk to folks that have done it before, right? Use that well of knowledge and communication with previous crafts to see what they've done, things that they've seen, so you can just kind of, sometimes it's just good for a starting point for brainstorming sessions and figuring out, like, oh, that's really cool, I think I'm going to actually add that, right? Or, I really like the idea, but you know what, if I do it like this, I think that could really fit into this theme, or, you know, whatever we're doing, right? So, communication. Yeah, just ask questions. Always ask questions. See if there's what we've got next. Okay, so that's pretty much it for your pre-event. So, right, you done the bid. You're on the bid, right? Your team is actually put on the event. You've done however months of your prep work, everything's set up, you're good to go. Now it's the day of the event. Now what? The first thing you're going to want to do is set up your space, right? If you're doing all of those things, every activity, you're going to want preset, all of the stuff, right? If there is something else happening in that space before the thing that you're doing, right, you're going to want to have stuff like on deck, right, prepped. You want to have very good communication with the individual running things in that space, so that you know the instant you can start that setup, that you can have a team set up of individuals that can help you set up. If you have multiple things running in multiple locations, right, having somebody that's, right, talk with your site team, right, because sometimes you're gonna have just runners and stuff like that should be like, okay, so at this time this needs to be set up in that location. I'm going to be across the other way setting up that or running that tournament or whatever, right? Right, if they've got a walkie, right, keep in communication, make sure that the conversation is happening. Otherwise, right, use phones, whatever that you need to do. If you have the chance, right, make your rounds, make sure everything is set and everything's running on schedule, things like that. But yeah, setup is going to be very, very important. And making sure that, you know, the communication is there so that the setup is actually what it needs to be, that it's very clear. It's really bad when you show up to a thing and you started a timed tournament thing and all the material's out but none of the tools are out, so everyone's just like, I have this sheet of fabric, I have nothing to cut it with or put it together with, right? And you get in there, right? You show up like a half an hour in and you're like, where are the tools, right? Like, you don't want to have that moment. You really don't want to have that moment, because some things are going to be very time sensitive, so you gotta be on the ball with it. You got to make sure that communication is clear and that your team is set.
So you said a half hour, and all I can picture is a bunch of people having chewed their way through the fabric, doing all the cuts. So.
Seen it. Get that little starter and then just, you know, tear through it. Yeah, I've seen it.
If you don't provide the tools, people get creative.
Oh, they do.
And creative people sometimes is sometimes good, sometimes
I mean,
bad for them to be that creative.
With fabric, you just need to make a little snip and then you rip.
Snip and rip. Depending on the fabric.
Fine.
Snip and rip.
Just saying. There's your tip.
I've seen folks where they needed to, like, break something up into pieces or, like, knock something in. They'd get a rock and start just bashing it. Like, I've seen all sorts of stuff.
I've put eyelets in with a rock. For sure. Yep. 100%. First spot D. I'm pretty sure. I put eyelets
find a
in
way.
with a rock.
They'll find a way. It's just...
Yeah.
Someone wants to craft something, you're gonna do it.
See, there should be extra points in those competitions when you creatively do something when you don't have tools.
Yep.
I feel like that would be good. Reward ingenuity.
Interesting. You absolutely can. Again, right? You're limited by your imagination. try things, right? And if it doesn't go well, then don't do it the next year, right? Tweak it a little, see what worked and didn't work. But what is this saying? You will fail 100% of the things that you never attempt, right?
Yes. Yep.
It's okay to try something and not go the best way, because like the worst thing is that you learned something, right? Not everything's gonna be successful, not everything's gonna be a winner, but if you don't try, you'll never figure that out. And the next time you do it, right, you'll learn from it, and it'll be bigger and better every time you do it. So try things, be okay.
Isn't that an Edison quote? I haven't failed 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that don't work.
Ooh, I like that.
Ideally, you don't take 1,000 tries at being a successful Crat. Hopefully, the first time is good and you build up from there, but you can always learn from your mistake.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you don't play, you can't win. Simple.
So, Wundra just said it. It was a Wayne Gretzky quote. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah,
that's it.
There we go.
That's it. That's the quote.
Hey, Pippin.
Yeah. Good stuff. So your setup is going to be important. Any sort of briefing you need to do with your team to make sure, right, that they're set up. You want to do that. Make sure that everything is clear to the folks that are attending the event and doing the activities, right? If there are any sort of contests or tournaments or things like that, you want to make sure that the rules are very clear, that you answer any questions that folks have, especially for time things that are sensitive, that you make sure that everyone is prepped and knows exactly what's happening before it starts. You want to make sure that if there's any sign-ups, that it's clear where those sign-ups are, what they need to put on there, any information, especially if it's one of those sorts of things where you can't figure out who the person is, right? Maybe they just write Amy, and there's 5 Amy's there, right? And you don't know who's going where and when, and there's no way to communicate with them, right? They don't have they're the only person that, like, everyone had to put their phone number or something on there, and they didn't put anything, right? So you don't know who the individual is, you don't know how to contact them, right? You want to make sure everything's very clear, and then you have ways to communicate. So that, and then you're gonna run it. You're gonna run the thing, right? Stick to your schedules. Make sure that if you're expecting them to be doing a thing, be present at the time, then follow it yourself, right? You need to be there also, right, when things start. Because if you're just like, the tournament starts at this time, and you and your yep. Okay, well, and we'll be right back. If you're making a huge deal about there being a cutoff for the tournament time, right, and you show up 3 hours late to that tournament, don't have expectations of them if you cannot follow those expectations yourself, right? So it's important, right? Lead by example.
This kind of circles back to the have the double schedule that you were talking about earlier, where there's the time we actually have scheduled. This is when we're starting. This is when we're going to tell people. So everyone kind of moseys in that direction, and they're going to be here for this. You're going to want your staff showing up before. You're going to tell your staff before you the time you told the people, and you're going to tell your Crats the time before you told your staff, so that everyone kind of lines up in the same spot.
The third
At least
secret
that's
list.
how I work with things. Yeah, there actually is like 5 schedules, because I'm like 15 minutes before the first guy, who's before the second guy, who's before the third, the fourth, the fifth.
Oh yeah.
And then the players show up.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do the same. I do the same. I do the exact same thing. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, I always have just like when I will be there, when the team will be there, when the contestants will be there, when the thing's actually starting, right? And like, yeah, it's everything's very subdivided into numbers.
I never find it works for me. I'm usually running 15 minutes behind my schedule, but everything seems to be on schedule at the end of this chain. So
yeah,
highly recommend.
Also, right, again, right, if you're sharing the space with other Crats, right, and everything's very structured for time. Be very courteous of the time that you're using the space, because it can really, really, really mess up the schedule if you're not keeping to the schedule and everyone else is, right? You want to be courteous with the other Crats that are sharing the space with you and are going off of the times that you're set and that you're running things, right? Again, communication is so crucial, and it's important to understand that you're part of a team. You got to work with that team. You got to communicate with that team. So communication, repeat stuff. So let's say everything goes great, everything is run, it's the end of the time, right? Either at the end of the day or the end of the period that you have that space for. You're going to want to have a set time for cleanup. You're going to want to leave the space better than you came in, right? Make sure everything's cleaned, everything's picked up, everything is accounted for, right? And that was, something that Darian had mentioned in the last class, right? And working also, right, with your site team to make sure that garbages are set up, right? And things are being, any trash is being thrown out, that you're not just going to leave it for your site Crat to all of a sudden have just a ton of, trash that now they have to deal with, right? Again, you're on a team. Be courteous of your teammates, and also of the site. Respect the site. Make sure that you're also not doing anything that can be damaging to the site, right? You want to make sure if there's anything like cutting, that you're not cutting directly on tables, right? Or into the floor or anything like that. If you're doing things with paint, you gotta be super, super careful. You gotta make sure that there's like tarps and things set up, right? Some things that you're also gonna want to, like, it's kind of going back a little bit, but risk assessment, right? You want to make sure any activities that you're running and any tools that are being used, that it is not going to endanger anyone, and that it is not going to damage the site or the tables or the chairs, the floor, whatever space that you're in. If there's too much of a risk, then don't do the thing, right? Pick a different activity, pick a different medium or whatever the situation is. But it's something that you got to be careful with.
PPE, proper protective equipment, is when you're doing classes or you're doing armor construction. It might sound silly to wear safety glasses when you're cutting chainmail rings, but I've had things shoot off and there's a dent in my ceiling.
Oof.
They're sitting here cutting rings, and the tip of the aviation snips shot off and hit my ceiling so hard it put a dent in the drywall. If that hits somebody in the eye, that's going to be an insurance claim.
Yeah.
Just to have someone watching, do it from a distance or wear safety glasses.
Yep.
Sounds silly, but something to consider, and it's off the wall and weird. Yep. I know we've had Lord Valiant do a blacksmithing class. He brought in an anvil, he had his log underneath it, and we had to pick carefully where he was going to do it, because if you do it on the wood of the gym, if you do it in the gym, the echo is going to hurt your ears, first of all.
Oh,
And the force going down could damage the wood of the gym. Yep. The tiles in the cafeteria, he could shatter one of the tiles. But doing it on terrazzo, there's very little that much force is going to do to terrazzo. So kind of like thinking about what you're cutting on, think about what's below that too, because sometimes that factors in.
Yeah.
Sorry for interjecting there.
No. This is a team event. Communication. Repeat stuff. Right. That's a fantastic point. Right. When there's some classes that I teach that have there's a joke that I teach the danger classes, right? I teach wood burning, needle felting, right? Like, but the first half of my wood burning class is safety, and I have aloe, right? At those classes, and I don't let them get anywhere close to them until they finish my whole entire safety course, right? Whenever I'm doing like needle felting courses, the first thing we do is we craft the thimbles to then do the thing, right? And they have to go through the whole safety course before I hand them the needle felting needle, right? And I have band-aids too, because right, things happen. Also water. Keep water for anything that you're doing, because hydration is going to be important. You're not going to think about it, but all of a sudden you're going to have somebody that's going to be in your class that hasn't had anything to drink in the past 4 hours, and all of a sudden they're intently, right, crafting, they're super intense, and they just forget. These things do happen. So just other things, just risk assessment.
Disclaimers are really important. As many people in the Nine Blades know, I homebrew, I teach brewing, and I think I've got like an hour and a half spiel that I go through with each person, talking about how you have to pay attention to a lot of little details when you're doing this. There's a lot of important little notes. Before you even touch anything, if you screw up right at word go, you're not going to get the product you want, which is a nice mead, a nice beer. You're going to wind up with botulism in a bottle, which could do some real damage. Yeah. And it sounds like I'm being mean when I'm starting to teach somebody. I'm going to give you an hour and a half lecture on what not to do, but it's a very serious thing, and it might not seem it when you start, but when you start looking at some of the horror stories that you hear about that permanently change people's lives because something weird went wrong, it's something you want to consider. That disclaimer is super important, because you may be an expert in a craft, and just a small little footnote, something you glaze over, something you don't even think about on a regular daily basis, something someone else would definitely need to know going in.
Because also, right, just to add on to that, when given all the risks, they may not want to attempt the thing once they know what's involved, right? It's important that they know what, that they are consenting to, the possible dangers, right? If you're really freaked out by needles, and the thought of getting, poked with a needle felting needle is something that just like, you're like, nope, not gonna risk that whatsoever, right? They need to know that that's a possibility, right? There is such thing as, operator error, right? I can go through half an hour of a safety course and somebody ignore me, right? Not take me seriously and go, oh, how bad could it be, right? All of a sudden, now we're getting into medic, all of a sudden you're calling your medic cracks, all of a sudden stuff's got real bad because they're not listening. Also, right, something to consider also, right, kind of backtrack a little bit, how many folks that you have in a class that you're gonna allow to be doing a thing if there is any sort of risk, right? Because the more people that you have, the harder it is to watch them like a hawk, right? You need to be able to monitor them at all times, right? Because they might also be doing something where something you didn't account for. You never thought that they'd be like, why are you doing? Oh my god, no, like, right? You can give them a whole safety lecture thing, and then they do something really sporadic that you never even thought that somebody would try to do with a thing, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh god, right? And then you turn around and there's, if you've got like 10 people behind you when you're working with, the 11th person, you can't watch all of them at the same time. You need to be able to have something that is more manageable. So again, right, risk assessment. You got to figure out what is a good amount, how many people that you can corral and watch over at a given time. So just more things to kind of consider.
You have to be ready for some of the weird stuff to happen too. And like you were saying, you do wood burning. I do brewing. There's needle felting with needles, armor making. You could get seriously injured with some of the tools you use if you're not paying attention and you're not doing it right. And you will think of every possible scenario where something might go wrong, and you're going to sit there, you can ponder it, and I was going to cover this more in security, but you're going to ponder it and think about every way this could go sideways. Any way that this could come out from under you. And, all right, I've thought about everything. And then you're just left standing there looking at somebody going, how? I watched a young man get a concussion doing standing long jump.
Jeez.
I'm not joking. The grass was wet. He jumped, and his heels went right out from under, landed on the back of his head. Had short-term memory loss for a week. You need to spend that time thinking about it, because 90% of the problems you'll be ready for.
Yep.
And the more ready you are to deal with those problems, the better that event's going to be. There's always going to be the fringe outlier that somehow got a concussion while stitching. It happens, and no one's going to hold that against you. But if you're not ready for the little things...
Yeah, make sure that you are in good communication and have access to your security, or not, sometimes your security team, but your medic team, right? If you're doing something like wood burning where someone can burn themselves, right, and you have no idea where anyone in the medic team is, you're gonna be in a situation, right? So that's important.
Yeah. You always know where your medic is in case they burn themselves, and know where your security team is if they burn someone else.
Oh my god, that's so good.
I am joking. Ideally, that never happens.
Right, but also, right, going off of things that, you're not expecting, I taught a wood burning class once where I went through all the safety stuff, right? Was so focused on them not burning themselves, but as soon as we started, there was a guy that held it like this and started stabbing the wood with it. I'm just like, never imagined that anyone would try to do things. I was just like, no. Like, I'm just like, wow, yeah, never accounted for that action to... Now I know that's the thing I gotta cover,
And how many classes had you taught up to that point?
Oh.
There is always going to be something that just comes out of the woodwork.
Yeah. Oh, that pun burns my soul. So much burning. But yeah, so just don't want to go too far into that. But yeah, there's things you're not going to be able to account for, and right, you're going to want to make sure that you have communication with those that can help if things go sour. 7 jug. Yeah, so in theory, right, everything's done, everything's cleaned up, you're all good. There's going to be some things after that you're going to want to deal with. After also cleaning up, if there's anything that you borrowed, you need to make sure that you can get those back to individuals that let you borrow them. For those that are at the event, right, get them to them before they leave, right, get them right away, just make sure that that's done. If you
make sure they're cleaned up before you give them back.
Yeah, that.
Getting a dirty crock pot back is not happy.
Yeah, I've had similar instances happen to me before. Please clean up the things if you're letting people borrow them and you're dirtying them up. Please be courteous of those that are letting you borrow things, because also, right, if you treat them with respect and return them nice and clean and safe, you will have a high likelihood of them letting you do it again in the future. If it comes back and it's damaged or it's dirty and mucky and gross and all of a sudden a huge hassle for them, yeah, they're not going to let you do that again. And all of a sudden you have a great resource that you're not going to get to use again. So also, right, make sure that anyone that is using it on your team, that you're very clear with that communication and that you make sure that it is being taken care of. So there's that. At this point, if you have not handed in any receipts yet for any of the materials that you have purchased for things, get those receipts in. It is crucial that you have receipts for anything that you purchased and you kept them and you hand them in. You cannot get reimbursed unless you have the receipts. This is super important, and it will affect the P&L, which again was covered last class, and I'm sure will be covered with Troll Crat.
This is
sections.
Me staring at you in Chancellor. Put in your receipts.
Actually, both of these individuals will do that, right? I'm not a chancellor. I just do the crafting things. So I'm just gonna hand you all the receipts and just not mess up. So that's right. try to do this early on, right? As soon as you get to the event, if you can, right? Hook up with the Troll Crat or, the Chancellor or whichever one's, organizing the financials. But it's basically, at this point, if you haven't handed them in yet, make sure you're handing them at this point. Yeah, it's going to be super important. So, other things that you're going to deal with. Some of these things are going to be happening, like, at court, and some of these things are going to be post-event. So, it will vary depending on the thing. So, any sort of debriefing that you want to have with your team, any sort of thank yous and communicating with them your appreciation of whatever they've done. If you have a chance to speak at court, thank your staff. Name them. Thank them. If you do not have a chance to speak at court, make a post when you're done. Thank everyone that helped you out. It's important that, folks, these are volunteers. Make sure that they understand how much you appreciate them and give them that shout out, because a lot of these things are thankless jobs, and it's mentally hard to just keep on doing it when you feel completely unappreciated. It's a lot of work, and it's nice to at least have that thank you. It helps.
You can go ask the regent and the monarch for awards too. The roses are specifically
That's the
for
next
helping
thing on
out
this
at
list.
events. Oh, I will let you get to it then.
Yeah.
Smiths have merit.
Oh gosh, yeah. So at the end of all this stuff, right? Make sure that you put in award recommendations for your team. You are probably the only one that knows the exact work that they did and how much they put in, or didn't. Sometimes you're going to have folks that are on the staff, on the team, and you go through the whole entire thing, and at the end, they never actually did anything. And you want to make sure that somebody isn't going to give them their 10th rose for the service they did at the event if they never actually did any service for the event, right? That's also something you're going to want to note. But that's usually, like, those are real corner cases. Most often than not, right? You're going to have an amazing group of individuals that, right, if you're communicating the whole time, that shouldn't happen, right? Make sure that they're getting recognized. So you want to make sure that also do your research, figure out how the awards work and what to nominate them for, right? For some individuals, it will be roses. So if it's a service being done, if it's an activity being run like a class, that's Smith. If it's somebody that's ahead of a team, right, or somebody like your autocrat, things like that, that's a lion. Depending, right, on how you do it, right? If it's very much a leadership position and it's being noted for, your leadership abilities, right?
You can be put up for more than one award for doing the same job, depending on how you excel. If you're the QM, you're involved in the setup, the teardown, the writing of the story, and leading all of your NPCs, and that leadership stands out, the event stands out, and the story stands out. You could be put up for a Smith, a Rose, and a Lion, I believe.
Mask.
Yeah.
A mask.
Oh yeah. There's so many things. There's so many things. There's just so many things. There's just options. There's options, right? And it's also going to depend on where they are at the ladder, right? If they are first anything, that should not even be a question, right? Sometimes, like, if somebody's at, like, a 10th, it might be just a matter of them, like, doing, like, oh, this person was A&S Crat for 2 events, 3 events, 4 events, right? They spent a whole entire year being this type of Crat for every event that we did, right? They can stack also, right? So you also want to make, if maybe something they did wasn't enough for, like, a super, super high thing, right? Make sure it's known that, hey, please consider this for the future. Please, like, also know that they've done this previously at this point and haven't gotten anything yet. They've done this previously and haven't gotten anything yet, right? Try to keep that tally for them, right? Advocate for your team. Advocate. Also, if you're doing a tournament, make sure that you are making a log of everything that was done remember to put in recommendations for, you know, the owls, dragons, and garbers for those tournaments, or if there's something else, you know, corner cases or whatever, other words possibly. So please consider that. There's lots of folks that do a lot of work, and just make sure that you advocate for them as best you can. And if you're regent and doing heinous Crat, do the thing, right? Make sure that you're keeping organized and you're keeping notes and making sure that that if you have the capability of giving out the awards, do the thing, make it rain, right? Because that's how you can make sure that folks are not getting overlooked, right? Also, on awards and stuff for tournaments, remember to post the results of the tournament. Sometimes these things are going to be done at court. Make a post after anyways, just for folks that were not at the event so they know. Also, there's going to be some cases where folks will send their entries and aren't at the event themselves. They could end up winning the tournament and you only announcing it at court and they never find out they win, right? So you want to make sure that you make a public post afterwards for results for any tournaments that are run. And again, right, if you're able to, if the tournament is done being judged before court, make sure that that announcement is being made at court. Even if it's not you making it, making sure that whoever is doing the announcements and whatnot is able to announce it for you. So make sure that you get that individual the results. So that's pretty much it for A&S Crat and Color Crat. If there's any questions, please be sure to tag me in either the Twitch or the Discord. At this time, if any of my guests have any things that they would like to add before we move on to the next Crat position, now's the time. Wait for that 20-second delay.
Wait, 20-second delay dance.
Oh, yep. Jazz hands for Shavia. And remember to pet your cat if available.
Oh, mine ran away.
Oh no. Hey, buddy. For those that don't know, this is Trey. Yeah.